Introduction to Origen. Origen was a well-known theologian and philosopher of the ancient Greek Church in early Christianity. He was a biblical scholar, exegete, and spiritual writer of the Alexandrian school. He was born in the year 185 AD and passed away in 251 AD. He was a Greek church father and one of the important representative figures of the Alexandrian school. Origen was born in a Christian family in Alexandria, Egypt, and received a good Christian education from a young age. In the year 202 AD, persecution broke out in Alexandria, and his father was martyred. If it were not for his mother secretly hiding his clothes, Origen would have been martyred along with his father. After the persecution subsided, he began teaching in Alexandria and was appointed by the local bishop Demetrius as the leader of the catechetical school, succeeding his predecessor, Clement. From then on, Origen began to lead a strictly ascetic lifestyle, practicing fasting, vigil prayers, and poverty. He actively advocated the concept of reincarnation. Origen had a great love for the Bible and even memorized it continuously to the extent that the Bible became a part of his thinking. He spent 20 years hiring many copyists and scribes, collating and comparing the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek Old Testament with the critical text. The Old Testament of the Bible was translated into Greek by 72 Jewish scholars, and Aquila, Symmachus, and Theodotion. Due to Origen's proficiency in Hebrew and his comparison of the various translations, he provided the Church with the most accurate Greek version of the Bible, the Septuagint. He also added extensive annotations to each book of the Bible, sometimes occupying a significant amount of space. Origen believed that believers should adhere to the basic doctrines of Christianity, but also have the freedom to explore. Origen has always been one of the most influential church fathers in the history of Greek theology. Origen wrote several works, including On First Principles and Against Celsus. His Hexapla is a great masterpiece of early Christianity. Among the church fathers of the early Eastern and Western Church, Origen was the most influential one, and his ideas laid a solid foundation for later Christian theology. His contemporaries and later church fathers and saints all more or less benefited from his ideas, and he is known as the teacher of all saints. In the year 215 AD, Origen travelled to Palestine from Alexandria and was invited to preach by the bishop of Caesarea. Because Origen was just a layman at the time, this action was considered a violation of the discipline of the Church of Alexandria, and he was called back by Bishop Demetrius. For the next 15 years, Origen devoted himself to writing and learning. In the year 230 AD, he once again travelled to Palestine, where the local bishop who had invited him to preach ordained him. As a result of this ordination, his position as head of the school in Alexandria and his status in the church were revoked by Demetrius. Origen had to leave Alexandria and settle in Caesarea, where he continued to teach, write, and preach, becoming well known and respected. Origen's On First Principles is the first systematic exposition of the Christian faith by a Christian philosopher. The original text was written in Greek and was later translated into Latin by the 4th century Latin Church father Rufinus. In the year 250 AD, Christianity had not yet gained recognition from the Roman Empire. During the nationwide persecution led by the Roman Emperor Decius, Origen was imprisoned and tortured for a long time. After the persecution ended, he died several years later due to injuries sustained during his imprisonment and was recognized as a martyr. As the intellectual leader of the Eastern Greek Church, Origen wrote extensively throughout his life. Unfortunately, most of his works are no longer existent. In his most important theological work, On First Principle, Origen achieved the first systematic exposition of the Christian faith by employing Greek concepts. His surviving spiritual works include On Prayer and An Exhortation to Martyrdom, both written during the period of persecution and widely spread in the ancient world. Origen's Against Celsus is a pinnacle of early Christian apologetics in the pre-Nicene Church and a major source of his discussion on the political responsibility and social framework of Christians. Like his pagan predecessors, Celsus viewed Christians as a hostile political force that undermined the Roman Empire. Origen responded by saying that Christians believe it is God who gives political responsibility to the emperor, and that the Christian faith promotes social morality and cohesion. Origen did not directly answer why participating in war was wrong, but believed that the church, like priests, should be set apart from bloodshed and focus on prayer service. Furthermore, since the Christians in each city were already a separate group, they should not hold public office within the empire. However, when Celsus mentioned that if the Roman Empire were to convert to Christianity, it would be powerless to stop invaders, Origen's response was quite creative. Origen depicted an eschatological scene of political significance, namely that the conversion of the entire empire would inevitably bring about its universal rational rule. The connection and unity of law, nomos, and reason, logos, and philosophy is a common thing in Platonism, which has created an ideal paradigm at the political level, similar to Confucianism of China's inner sage and outer king. Starting from this point, Origen believed that Rome was destined to fulfill its historical mission of building a universal empire, as long as all the people of the empire converted to Christianity. It is not difficult to see that this vision has already prepared the way for later events, such as the support of figures like Eusebius or the conversion of Constantine. After several centuries of rapid development, Christianity had taken shape, but various factions emerged within the church. With a large number of intellectuals entering the church, there arose a need for the original beliefs and doctrines to be formalized and systematized, which also led to diverse interpretations and disputes. Origen's theological ideas developed into Origenism, which later sparked great debate. Among those who supported him were the famous church father Athanasius and Basil. These controversies were finally declared heretical at the Second Council of Constantinople in 553 AD. As a Christian philosopher with a background in Greek culture, Origen sought to systematize the primitive belief system when facing the intellectual class of society. However, this was quite different from the typical needs of ordinary churchgoers, and thus could not gain recognition from the church. Hans Kung believes that this is the first major conflict in the history of the church between an authoritarian bishop and a free Christian teacher, and the first major conflict between church power and spiritual authority, and the first major conflict between institutionalized church leadership and professional theology. This is the tragedy of Origen, as well as the tragedy of many Christian philosophers. Origen's views on reincarnation were not officially declared heretical by Emperor Justinian I until after 553 AD, and were removed by the Church. Prior to that, early Christians did not necessarily reject the idea of reincarnation. As a modern Christian, it is important to be aware of this history.